We can all agree that Penn's speech at the end of Bridgerton Season 3 was completely nonsensical. Surprisingly so, by the way.
Because when it comes to Shonda Rhimes, one thing she will do is write a good speech.
This is the same woman who wrote most of the speeches in Scandal. Olivia Pope will kill your mother and then gaslight you into thinking that it was the right thing to do in the name of democracy. And by the time she's done with her speech, you too will be in complete agreement with her and even wish that you have done it yourself because her delivery was just that good. I can't count how many memorable speeches came out of Scandal. Is it the Ellen of Troy speech? I belong to you? Every time Papa Pope opens his mouth? There is not one character in Scandal that did not steal the show at one point or another because of an incredible monologue. Like when you're in the shower and you're replaying an event that happened earlier in the day and you're thinking about what you should have said and how you should have said it for it to be just right? That was the caliber of speeches that Scandal delivered each season. And when it comes to Bridgerton, which is produced by Shonda Rhimes herself, Bridgerton is also known for its memorable declaration of love and somewhat monologue. So one must ask, what the hell happened? To think that this was the culmination of 3 seasons of mystery and drama surrounding Lady Whistledown? Is this really how Lady Whistledown is gonna go out? A poorly written speech and an even more questionable delivery? Now let's take a look at Penn's original speech. Penn's original speech lacks weight, gravitas, and stake. Her standing in society, that of her mother and her sisters, along with the reputation of her new family, is at stake. If she does not succeed to create a favorable narrative, the tone will see that she is burnt at the stake. Figuratively, of course. Furthermore, her strategy is lacking. She tries to appeal to the young ladies of the tone to whom no one pays attention or listens. But there are 2 main issues with this attempt. Firstly, the tone is filled with men who do not relate to this argument, and Bridgerton is set in a patriarchal society. Secondly, and most importantly, she was writing a gossip column that criticized the very same woman she now tries to appeal to for support. A feminist staring down other women as a sign of feminism is wild, to say the least. In addition, the speech focuses entirely on all the negative aspects of Penelope, and it's simply not the right time for that. She talks about how power can be intoxicating, how she learned that true courage means living openly, how sharing one's weakness publicly is commendable. And while all this is very cute indeed, it does nothing to highlight all the positive things about Lady Whistledown. Plus, you don't self-deprecate when the people in front of you are already predisposed to condemn you. From a character perspective, this was Penelope's moment to shine. A recurring theme in the book about her character is that she struggles to reconcile Lady Whistledown with Penelope Featherington. Somewhere between her mind and her mouth, the words get confused and she gets lost, which is why she writes and rarely speaks. But this should have been the moment where the 2 sides of her finally became one.
Penn is Lady Whistledown. This was supposed to be her conclusion, her transformation, her becoming. And whatever this speech was did not deliver. For a matter of fact, the entire season did not deliver. But I digress.
Although Bridgerton is produced by Shonda Rhimes' production company, it is not realistic to think that she is the one that is writing every single speech. In fact, she is not. Most of the writing is done by the screenwriters and overseen by the director of each episode, who I'm not gonna name and shame in this video.
But since the Queen, Shonda Rhimes, is not here to do her magic, let's try to fix it. The first mistake happened even before the speech itself. Penn should have spoken to Queen Charlotte beforehand, and the Queen should have given her permission to address the tone. It is just ridiculous to think that after everything Lady Whistledown said about the Queen, the public mocking, that little speech would cut it. There is a lot of things that Bridgerton does that just doesn't make sense, like solving racism with a marriage or marrying your sister's fiance. And to be fair, we all turn a blind eye because we are all suckers for Bridgerton. But this was just too much to ignore. So let's just say that in this version of the speech that we're gonna create together, Penelope has already went to the Queen and pleaded for forgiveness, and she has already have like a very long, painful conversation, after which the Queen granted her permission to address the tone. So she wouldn't really have to address the Queen again in her speech.
That being said, let's get into it.
When writing a speech designed to convince and influence an audience, the writer must focus on 3 essential tools: pathos, logos, and ethos. This rhetorical strategy, often referred to as the art of persuasion, were first introduced by the masters of rhetoric themselves, the ancient Greeks. The concepts of ethos, credibility, pathos, emotion, and logos, logic, were developed by Aristotle as the foundational principle of rhetoric. Aristotle identified this mode of persuasion as the core strategy to effectively engaging and convincing an audience. Pathos. Pathos is the easiest tool of persuasion. It simply refers to the speaker's ability to appeal to the audience emotion. The speaker uses feelings such as compassion or fear in order to appeal to the audience and to convince them to listen. Then you have logos. Logos is by far the most powerful tool of the trio. It refers to the speaker's ability to use logic and reasoning to convince the audience. Logos grounds argument in fact, evidence, and logic to make them convincing and compelling. It enhances clarity and assures that the audience follows and understands the message. Ethos. If logos is indeed essential, ethos is the backbone. Ethos is a speaker's credibility. An effective speaker proves to the audience that they are an expert on the topic and deserve the audience's attention. By demonstrating expertise, integrity, and genuine intent, a speaker builds trust and authority, making their message compelling and impactful. Without it, persuasion falters, regardless of the message merits. For instance, if Cressida had to address the tone, she will have a very hard time creating ethos because she has already been established as a A strong ethos does not only enhance its persuasion, it also underscores accountability, integrity, respect, solidifying the speaker's influence and leaving a lasting impression. These are the strategies that we will keep in mind while writing the speech. If you want to see the final version of the speech, you can move to this moment of the video, but I would advise you to stick around for the ride because that's where the fun is.
Now let's finally get into it. Dearest gentle readers, a while ago when I picked up my pen, I made you a promise that if Lady Whistledown were ever to be discovered, it will come from the writer herself. Staying true to my promise, I come before you to say that I am Lady Whistledown. Many of you might be surprised by this and feel even betrayed or hurt by my words. For that, I am deeply sorry. I know this column has caused a lot of hurt to people, even to those closer to me and to whom I love the most. But I want to say that it was never my intention. Rather, it was the result of a series of events that spun out of control, but to whom I ultimately bear the sole blame. Therefore, I will state my case and accept your judgment. Although my reason may appear insufficient to you, they were in service of the tone itself. Pause. The opening of a speech set the tone for everything that follows.
It is a moment of power and vulnerability. For Pen, confidence is a non-negotiable. With her head held high and a voice that is undeniable, she must command the room. The queen is not forcing her to come forward, it is her choice. Any sign of weakness, like a trembling voice or hesitation, will immediately invite condemnation and dismissal, reinforcing the perception of guilt. Confidence forces the audience to pause, consider, and grant you the credibility to be heard. A direct and powerful opening relies on ethos, establishing her trustworthiness and authority. By choosing to reveal her secret on her own terms, she demonstrates control, honesty, and accountability. She starts by establishing the harm that she has caused, making it clear that it was never her intention. She also accepts the consequences of running a gossip column, refusing to deflect blame or shield herself from any kind of criticism. She quickly appeased the audience by simply taking accountability and full responsibility, and this perceived honesty itself can be seen as a tool of persuasion or even manipulation to earn the audience's respect. She concludes her introduction with a bold and powerful statement. It was in service of the tone itself. This deliberate ambiguity hooks the audience, creating anticipation. What does she mean? How can something so damaging and degrading be in service of the tone? With this, she demands attention and prepares the audience for the weight of her argument.
The first argument: the audience role in the creation of Lady Whistledown. When I first began this column, It was little more than a fleeting experience, a hasty decision that felt almost foolish. I wanted to write about you, about us, about the wonders of the tone, the gossip, the intrigue, the conversation that sparkle in every corner of our society. But never for even a moment did I imagine that it would go beyond a one-time endeavor. I was astonished by the reception of my very first column, how eagerly the tone embraced Lady Whistledown. You disserted her words, whispered a name, and carried a revelation from draw rooms to ballrooms. Your curiosity, your delight, became my approval, a sign that Lady Whistledown had tapped into something deeper, a desire for truth, connection, and the imperfection beauty that blinds us all. Very quickly, that approval transformed into a duty. Lady Whistledown became more than a writer. She became a voice, a fixture of the tone. Each purchase, each eager glance at a new edition breathed life into her. You didn't merely read my words, you participated in them. Without your interest, your whispers, your anticipation, and even expectation, Lady Whistledown would not exist. In a world where perfection is paraded and flaws are hidden, Lady Whistledown seemed to offer something different. She exposed not just secret, but humanity. And so my intention was never to divide, but to bring us all together, to show that beneath the facade, we all share the same joys, the same struggles, and imperfections. Pause.
Pen must swiftly shift the narrative. Lady Whistledown exists because tone created her and wanted her. They gave her their approval. This portion of the speech hinges on logos. If they truly despise Lady Whistledown, why do they continue to promote her work and buy a column and essentially fuel her flames? If her action were so condemnable, why sustain her? This argument puts the spotlight on the audience and places them right next to her on the stage, forcing them to confront a large existential question that we all face. Why do we continue to consume things that bring us instant gratification even when we know that it is morally condemnable? From fast fashion to Apple product to unchecked overconsumption, this behavior is universal and undeniable. By exposing their shared hypocrisy, Pen not only deflects blame, but also holds a mirror to the audience, making them complicit in the very thing they claim to reject. At the same time, she starts to shift the perception of Lady Whistledown. She is more than just gossip, she is much more.
Second argument. It's more than just gossip.
For those who feel wounded by my words, I offer this. My pen followed a moral code, guided by fairness and truth. Through the years, I have penned over 1,000 columns, and though I have amassed a fair share of transgression, there is one charge that cannot be laid at my door. That of falsehood. I never told a lie. I was fair in my regards, regardless of status, popularity, beauty, or standing in society. And while my words may have stung, can any of us deny our part? You revealed in the gossip when it wasn't your own, did you not? In truth, Lady Whistledown is not just me. She's all of us. Without the tone, she would not have existed. Just as without her, the tone would lose some of its sparkle. This was our dance, you and I took up the pen, not out of mischief, but to honor your invitation. Lady Whistledown became more than my creation. She became our reflection, our witness, our voice. Through her, I chronicled your joys and your sorrows. I celebrated your triumph and revealed your follies.
Not with malice, but with honesty.
Now I stand before you, ready to bear the weight of my actions. But as you pass judgment, I ask you please remember, Lady Whistledown's pen may have been mine, but the ink was drawn from your lives. And so in a reflection, I hope you see something worth cherishing, a reminder of our shared humanity.
Pause.
Pen must put things into perspective. Lady Whistledown wasn't just about exposing scandals, there were positive things too. Here, Pen has to tap into pathos, emotion, by reminding the viewers of the role that Lady Whistledown played in their lives. She wasn't merely a gossip, she was a mirror to society, reflecting truths they might have otherwise ignored. At the same time, credibility ethos is crucial. Pen must remind the audience of the cornerstone of Lady Whistledown's work. She never told a lie. Her writing were fair, balanced and rooted in truth. By highlighting this principle, Pen reframes Lady Whistledown not as a villain, but as a figure who held the tone accountable while remaining just and fair, a rare combination worthy of respect. It is all about reframing the opinion of the column, reframing the impact of Lady Whistledown, reframing their minds, essentially rewriting the narrative. Throughout the speech, you will notice a deliberate oscillation in how Pen refers to herself as Lady Whistledown, while at the same time referring to Lady Whistledown as an independent figure. This intentional separation allows the audience to dissociate any hostility that they might have towards the small little Pen from the admiration that they have for the formidable Lady Whistledown. Strategically employing this distinction throughout the speech is crucial to win her plea.
The closing. If after all this you find my action unforgivable, I will accept your judgment. But know this, Lady Whistledown existed to serve the tone, to connect us and to hold a mirror to our world. Not the one we pretend to inhabit, but the one that truly exists, with all its beauty and flaws. And so Lady Whistledown's legacy will endure as long as there are stories to tell and truth to uncover. And for the many years you have granted me the privilege of being at your service, I offer my deepest gratitude. It has been my greatest honor. I now relinquish my pen back to you.
The closing is crucial. It is the last impression that Pen will leave on our audience. She must make it count. This is the moment for Pen to elevate her column into something that is bigger than herself or even the audience. She must appear to their shared vulnerability, their humanity. By connecting on a deeper level, she transforms her message into something universal and unforgettable, leaving them not just with words, but with a profound emotional resonance that lingers long after she has finished speaking. But most importantly, Pen must finish a speech like she started it, with power. She must defend her work and make it clear that regardless of how they decide to treat her in the future, Lady Whistledown's legacy and impact is undeniable and will outlive them all. Oh, and I almost forgot the butterfly scene. What the hell was that? At the end of Penelope's speech, there is a slight pause, after which one of her sisters goes on stage and says something about releasing the bugs, and bam, all of a sudden, hundreds and thousands of butterflies erupt in the ballroom. And this grown adult are suddenly mesmerized and astonished to the point where they seem to have almost forgotten what just happened. What the heck was that? The butterfly scene was clearly a device to distract us from a very poorly written scene. The butterfly scene in itself is clearly a distraction. It's a sign that the writer didn't know how to create the necessary impact that the speech demands. So they opt to rush away from the weight of the moment by creating a ridiculous diversion. So here's what should have happened. Pen should have finished the speech and there should have been like a very long pause, like a very uncomfortable, filled with tension pause where everybody is thinking what would happen. Like you can feel the tension. How will people react? Where is this gonna go? And then an old man should have like erupt from the crowd and be like,
"How dare you expose the state of my secret affairs to all of London?"
Something like that. And somebody behind him should have been like,
"Well, Lord Pemberley, since we are speaking of grievances, perhaps you might first return the funds that you appropriated from the charity's coffer."
Somebody in the crowd that we don't see should have been like,
"Yes, thank God for Lady Whistledown."
and then Lord Pemberley should have been like, it should have been like, okay, moving on. And so maybe like a mama should have like come on and be like,
well, I just want to say that my heart at the sprinkle ball wasn't that big.
and then one of her friends should have tapped her on the shoulder and be like,
Dearest, it was positively enormous.
and then she should have been like,
Oh, okay.
and then somebody like, let's say like a younger debutante should have been like,
Does that mean that there will be no more Lady Whistledown? This is my first debut. I haven't even been mentioned yet.
and then people should have just started erupting, speaking, but basically the reaction that Pen should have received when she finished her speech should have validated every single argument that she made. okay, she exposed secret, but she never told a lie. And honestly, some people actually deserve to be exposed. And if they didn't want to appear in Lady Whistledown, maybe they should have lived a life that was more honest. And yes, she criticized people on their appearance, but is it even that serious? Like, is it even that serious? And yes, she was talking about people in general, but actually some people, it was actually a great honor to be mentioned in Lady Whistledown, and at the end of the day it was fun and engaging and interesting. And so basically the general consensus should have been, yes, we are mad at Lady Whistledown, but are we really mad at Lady Whistledown? You know, like, that should have been the reaction. And most importantly, there should have been a short scene at that moment with Queen Charlotte. Either Queen Charlotte addressing Pen directly or addressing a valet, I don't remember his name. But for Queen Charlotte, Lady Whistledown actually offered her a diversion, a distraction to a miserable life. Like, if you remember what happened in Queen Charlotte, the queen is miserable. Like, the love of her life doesn't remember her. He has dementia. He's not there anymore. And in actuality, all her kids, like, we don't even see her kids in Bridgerton because, well, they're not even around her. So she's very miserable. And what Lady Whistledown gave her was a way to channel her energy, her time into something else. All that back and forth was really like a dance. It was a dance between Lady Whistledown and the throne, but also between Lady Whistledown and Queen Charlotte, because he gave her something to do. So at the end of season 3, Queen Charlotte should have actually acknowledged the fact that now that Lady Whistledown has been discovered, it's actually going to be quite sad. Like, she's going to miss her. Not only would it have been Queen Charlotte acknowledging that the game was over, it would have also been a moment for the viewers themselves to reflect on the fact that Pen really offered us 3 seasons of mystery and drama, and now it's over and we're going to enter a new chapter. I feel like the writer should have put more thought into the speech and actually crafted something that made sense and then paid respect and maybe homage to the 3 seasons that we just spent watching Pen and Lady Whistledown and Bridgerton in general. Now that we have finished our first draft, I'm going to sit back and let you guys hear the final version. Keep in mind that this version will likely be trimmed in the context of a TV show. But regardless of that, enjoy. And please take 5 seconds to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help this channel grow and motivates me to create more videos like this. On that note, keep on watching, keep on reading, and don't forget that Jesus loves you. Au revoir!
When I first began the column, it was little more than a fleeting experience, a hasty decision that felt almost foolish. I wanted to write about you, about us, about the wonders of the town, the latest gossip, the conversation that sparkle in every corner of our society. But never for even a moment did I imagine that it would grow beyond a one-time endeavor. I was utterly astonished by the reception of my very first column, how eagerly you carried the news of Lady Whistledown, how excited you all seemed, and most of all, how expectant you became. I never anticipated that you would not only read my words, but embrace them with such enthusiasm. You discussed Lady Whistledown at every turn, discussed her revelation and whispered her name. It felt as though, in your curiosity and your delight, you have granted me your approval, a sign that Lady Whistledown fulfilled a need, a desire for truth, gossip, and connection. That approval, that shared excitement, became something more. It became a duty. Lady Whistledown was no longer merely my creation, she became a fixture of the tone, pivotal to its discussion and its intrigue. Each time you purchased the column, eagerly awaited its publication, and whispered its content in drawer rooms and barrooms, you breathed life into her. You did not merely consume my work, you participated in it. Your attention, your curiosity, your anticipation were not only my fuel, but in a way, my mandate. Each page turn, each coin spent, each eager glance at the latest edition was for me a call to duty that I could not ignore. In a world where perfection is paraded and flaws amassed, Lady Whistledown offered something different. She did not merely expose secret and chronicled follies, she gave back humanity, revealing the shared joys, the whispered struggle, the imperfect beauty that binds us all. Through our words, I hope not to divide, but to bring us together, to show that beneath the facade of the tone, our humanity. To those who have been wounded by my words, I offer this: you cannot lay the blame solely at my feet. I have always endeavored to follow a moral code, a standard by which fairness was my guiding principle. I told the truth, always. Not a softened, polished truth meant to please, but an honest account of the life we led in this society. I was fair, sparing no one, not even my own family, nor myself. But before you render your judgment, let us confront the truth that cannot be denied. We all played a part. Each time you read my words, disserted them, and carried them forward, you became complicit in the very enterprise you now condemn. You loved the gossip, not always perhaps when it touched upon your own affairs, but when it concerned your neighbor and the tidbits were especially juicy, you revealed in it, did you not? In a way, Lady Whistledown is not merely a single voice. She is all of us. Without the tone, Lady Whistledown would not exist. Just as without Lady Whistledown, the tone would lose some of its sparkle, its liveliness, and its very essence. I may have given her words, but it was your interest, your whispers, and your lives that brought her to life. As a gentleman takes a lady to join the dance, I felt as though this was our dance, Lady Whistledown and the tone, moving in step with one another. And so I took the pen not out of mischief, but out of duty. Lady Whistledown had become more than a writer. She had become a companion, a witness. To silence her would have been to rob you of something that had woven itself into the very fabrics of your lives. Through her, I chronicled your joys and your sorrows. I celebrated your triumph, your courtship, your marriages, the birth of your very first child. And yes, I have reported on your flaws and your follies, but never with malice. My aim was not to wound, but to reveal, to illuminate the truth behind the perfection society demands. And so I hope that despite your grievances, you may come to see that everything I wrote, every word penned, was in service of your enjoyment, your connection, and perhaps even your betterment. If after all this you still find my words unforgivable, I will accept your judgment, but I leave you with this final thought. Lady Whistledown belongs to all of us. A legacy will endure as long as there are story and truth to uncover. And for the many years that you have granted me the privilege of being at your service, I offer my deepest gratitude. It has been my greatest honor. Now, I relinquish my pen back to you.